You're listening to Rhonda Spaziani on Spaz on Health with greeningradio.com.
Hi, you're listening to Spaz on Health, hosted by Rhonda Spaziani on greeningradio.com. Subscribe to our email list to receive updates, freebies, and notifications of events and online courses. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram and Twitter, Green Ink Radio. Also read our blog at wordpress.greeninkradio. There are so many other great shows on the Green Ink Radio network, so tune in to rock your best life. This episode explores one of the great mysteries of life. What is romantic love? Have you ever questioned if you were in love or loved? How do we know when we are in love? In order to discover what commonalities and differences in our experience of love exist, I questioned 10 people with an array of gender, sexual orientation, and life phase and relationship status differences to determine how our understanding of romantic love overlaps and diverges. They were all interviewed independently and had no knowledge of the other's answers. I asked all respondents the same questions. What does romantic love mean to you? What does it feel like and look like to you? And also, when do you know when you are in love? I first interviewed Sam and Pablo, a young cohabitating college couple. Sam is a 21-year-old cisgender heterosexual female in a 4-year relationship with Pablo, a 21-year-old pansexual male. By their responses, you may be able to recognize that they are currently experiencing some challenges around monogamy and commitment, and maybe in different places emotionally in regards to their relationship.
To me, your love should always be romantic, regardless of how long you've been with your partner. I think that you would be able to find romantic love just when you look at your partner, and whatever you see in them when you look at their face is, what romantic love is to you.
So when you look at their face and how you feel is what romantic love is to you?
Yeah, I think that, whenever you see them or you're face-to-face with them, the first, thought that pops into your mind is, what your love is to them and them to you.
So when you fall in love, do you start looking at the person differently?
Yeah, I think so. I think that when you fall in love with someone, you start looking at them as more of like someone who you need in your life, more so than someone who's like a friend to you, or someone who you could potentially stand, moving on.
So it becomes, when you fall in love with someone, it changes from just kind of enjoying someone's company to that you feel like you need them in your life?
Yes.
And Pablo's responses were?
Personally, I'm not sure if I've ever truly experienced it, but from what I'm experiencing now, I imagine it's a comfortability and shared growth between two individuals, regardless of gender, sexuality, and that they seek to improve each other with each other and grow personally, professionally with each other, even if they have different fields or different ideals.
So it's more like a friendship?
Like an evolved friendship, I believe.
So you're in a long-term live-in relationship with Sam, and so how is that different than past relationships you had? What made you move to a live-in sort of circumstances?
The funny story about that is I was actually almost kicked out of my own home, so it was helpful that we could grow together even if it was the forced situation. That she was willing to come in with me even disregarding her own financial situation for us to work together.
I then moved on to query Zoe and Robbie, a passionately in love heterosexual college couple in a relationship a little over a year. She's a 20-year-old and he is 21. They are in this passionate phase of romantic love, and the similarity of their joyful answers reflect their current commitment to the relationship. Zoe responds,
I think it's happiness is a good way to put it. It's like, it sounds really cliche, but it's like butterflies in your stomach and like warm, happy feelings and just smiling when you're not realizing it, things like that.
So when you're thinking of the person you love, is that when you get those feelings?
Yeah, definitely.
And when you see them, does it change?
Absolutely. No, well, it gets more, if that makes sense.
So is that like the barometer of what love is, when you get that feeling?
I think so, and I think it applies to a lot of things too, like the happier you feel, like maybe the more in love or the better you feel about it.
Do you think about that? You mentioned about thinking about them. Do you think about the person you're in love with more than you think about other people?
Definitely.
So how often do you think about a person you're in love with?
Every day for sure. Probably most of the day, every day. Occupies a lot of my thought.
Robbies are quite reflective.
So to me, love in general is, in this case, someone or something really just makes you happy. Mm-hmm. But to a further extent than what someone probably thinks about when they think of happiness. To me, at the core, it's the same. If you love something, you're probably meaning that something is, whether it be an activity or your favorite food, like you love those things, they make you happy when you're encountering them.
Good point.
When you're playing the activity, when you're eating the food that you love, it's making you happy. So if you think about that in like a person-to-person sense, it's kind of the same to me, where I've encountered this person and now I love this person and they just make me happy. But it's constant. It's not the same as like I met an idol and, that was a great moment. Something I'll remember. It was an event. Being in love is like, it's constant. Like, it becomes a part of you that it's just a new part of you that's just always good. Like, in the case of me and my girlfriend, I love her, and I know she loves me. And then going back to what I said earlier, like, I love her, she makes me happy no matter what. She stresses me out all the time. All the time. But no matter what, it always makes me happy that I'm with
even
her.
The stress.
Yeah, even the stressful situations, I'm happier with her because I love her. It's like the same way, like, I love chocolate. I eat so much chocolate, and it makes me happy, but it that's limited to as much as you can eat. But I can always think of my girlfriend.
So there's boundless amounts of love.
Right, it's like, love is subjective, like always. When it becomes romantic, that's when it's constant.
Mm-hmm. And so, how did you know you were in love?
I didn't. I just went with it, and it just seemed right. To me, like, that's what I think of love. I know it's not as romantic as some other people would think of it, but to me, that's what it is. And it's more powerful than, like, I can describe. Happiness isn't the right word, but that's the word I'm, like, defaulting to. Mm-hmm. But there's, like, just an amazing amount of joy, comparatively.
Ben is a pansexual transman, currently single, who believes he couldn't be open to love until he accepted himself. Interestingly, he displayed both the female, more emotionally driven answer style, as well as the more male-dominant pattern of highlighting the practical aspects of love.
Romantic love, it's like the butterflies in your stomach, but also the contentness and the security in life. It's like a lot of comfort, but it's a very unique feeling. I feel like it's different with every couple and every person and everyone's situation, the time in their life that they're at. What it looks like to me is people, one person or 2, 3, depending on your relationship. It just feels comfortable. It's more about how it feels than it looks to me, because I've learned as I grow older that the variables of love change, and what they look like to me 10 years ago is a lot different from what a couple looks like to me today.
So when you say a couple looks like you, what about love? Has your feelings about love changed?
Yes. I think, like, it's a lot more flexible. It makes, like, the ideas I had about love are a lot more interchangeable now. And I used to have very rigid ideas towards love and what it was and what it meant to people, but I feel like that's not as big of a thing anymore. I also feel like I shouldn't project those things onto people.
So can you explain that a little further on how that's changed and what love looks like, feels like, is to you now?
Well, I would say as I grow older and define myself, I used to not really understand my own sexuality, and I used to project that on other people. So, like, when I was very young, I didn't understand, like, queer lifestyle and queer love, and I didn't understand how 2 people of different genders or the same gender could really, certain situations. I didn't understand how people from certain backgrounds and certain sexualities or same genders or same identifications could love each other, because I didn't understand. But now as I grow older, I could see the reasons for the compatibility and the beauty in it. I didn't understand being gay when I was older, and now I'm a pansexual male, so that's a little bit different.
So when you say that 2 people of the same sex, you didn't quite get it, how they could be in love? Is that what you didn't understand?
That's what I didn't understand, which is funny because the realization that 2 people of like maybe the same gender identification could be in love was like the whole key to unlocking who I am as a person now. I feel like that, like understanding that and loving myself and learning to love people who love each other like that has been like the whole foundation of my personality. That's what love is to me, is it's a lot about identity and comfort and freedom and knowing yourself like that.
So by doing so, then that allows you to fall in love more easily?
Yeah, actually, as I have a lot less reservations about how people see me and more about how my partner sees me and what my partner needs from me, as opposed to like how society is going to view me if I date another man. Who cares, as long as my partner's comfortable with that? I think part of love, from my definition, is understanding that you can't really be in love with someone or love someone until you're comfortable with yourself and you love yourself, because it's really hard for someone to see the best parts of you if you don't understand it yourself.
Alicia and Amy are two middle-aged bisexual women, 33 and 39 years old respectively, currently living together for 2 of their 3-year relationship. Amy has 4 children from a previous heterosexual marriage. Their answers speak of kindness, acceptance, forgiveness, and compassion. And, well, butterflies.
I think you know when you're in love when you're somewhere and you're just, I don't know how to explain it. It's like you just feel it. You feel it in your gut. You find that you think about that person in moments that you wouldn't. You find that you're missing that person. You find that your hand feels empty, or that you're yearning for a hug, or you're in a crowd of people, but yet you search for that one person, and you find that they just fit. You laugh at the same things, and I think it's also when you can be yourself. And I'm going to apologize for this, but it's like when you can just, pass some gas and it's funny, or you can, go to sleep next to somebody with your CPAP on, or, you just are able to be your weird, uncomfortable, authentic self with someone. And that's when you realize, like, holy crap, I must love this person because I'm just myself. Romantic love to me is the little things. It's kisses goodnight even when you're angry. Always getting up and reminding the person that you're with that you love them. Communication, hand-holding in public, flowers for no reason, random dates, whether it's to the movies or to just taking a drive to your favorite spot or your partner's favorite spot. It's those little things, because when you stop doing the little things, that's when you kind of lose sight of love. And it's to remember to always date. If you constantly are dating, you will always be learning something about your partner, so you don't ever really lose the love.
And Amy says,
I think that it's compromise, it's give and take, it's supporting the other person, respecting the other person.
when do you know when you're in love?
You mean after you have that whole beginner butterfly thing?
At what moment, what does it look like when you realize you're in love or falling in love?
For me, when I realized it was real, was things that would normally bother me don't bother me. Things that I wouldn't think that I would put up with or be willing to sacrifice or whatever were non-issues for me.
So you have a tendency to kind of turn a blind eye to their flaws and irritants?
Yeah. Well, I think I shouldn't say you turn a blind eye. I just don't even think it even bothers you like it would. Something that would normally bother me doesn't bother me.
And is there a feeling that you get when you're in love?
Yes, just very, very content, very not struggling with the back and forth, and just happy where I am, even if things aren't perfect and there's still things to work on and work through. And you're not waiting for, someday everything's going to be great.
So you accept it exactly as it is?
Yep.
That's kind of interesting. And is that long-term love?
I think so. It's past the beginner, the flutters and just everything's perfect and wonderful. Once you get past that and you get into the nitty-gritty of relationship, and then it's still good. I found that I was married to a man for 11 years, and then I've been in 2 different relationships with women for a total of 12 years. They're the same. A relationship's a relationship. You have the same struggles. You have money, kids, housework, hopes, dreams, fears, whatever. That doesn't vary whether you're with a man or a woman.
Mark, a 49-year-old Hispanic heterosexual, happily married for 20 years, father of 2, asked for his name to be changed. The only one of the respondents to do so. And while he answered all the questions, he utilized evasive tactics and such generically positive phrasing it felt more like an athletic team-building exercise than an explanation of romantic love. It must be noted, however, that while Mark may have skirted the questions, his 53-year-old male, heterosexual colleague adamantly refused to answer them at all.
I think love is when you have a lifetime of different kinds of experiences. From viewing your parents, the people you're around, you take the good pieces of what you've seen and you take the negatives of what you've understood or interpreted to be not nice or not well, and you make it what it is to be your own. Hopefully that leads you to have a healthy, happy life.
So you look at your role models and tease out the good things that you liked about their relationship and try to discard the things you didn't like about the relationship? Absolutely.
From every good and positive and negative and not so nice, there's always something to be learned. So if you could filter out what it is that makes you comfortable and happy going forward, then you make that your own.
So you discussed a little bit about how uncomfortable you were as a male to talk about love. Mm-hmm. Why is that?
Well, as a male, at least in my mind, the impression that you have to be, you might want to say kind of in charge and in control of your own feelings. And once you let down your guard and you get to let people a little closer to you, you open yourself up to be vulnerable. If you get if you open yourself up and you have a negative experience where you just didn't like where you are, how you got there, you really don't want to visit that again. Skeptical about letting someone else back inside.
Okay, so if you've been hurt.
Absolutely.
Makes sense. So what is it, how do you know when you're in love when you're a male? Is that different? You think that's different?
From male to female and from every other female to one another, as every male to every other male, everybody interprets everything different. It's got to be tailored to what you want for yourself, how your past experiences form you into where you are going down the road in life.
So, what does it feel like to be in love?
It feels like you got a good team put together, and you're on the same page, and there are differences and different ways to accomplish certain things. And if you could talk things out and formulate a plan to plan the next day, the next year, or sometimes you just don't have to plan. You just have to let things happen, let things grow and happen by themselves.
So is there anything that signals when you're in love? Something you feel, think, do?
For me, no. You just let it happen. These things, you can't plan these things. They just happen.
When I interviewed Betty, a 56-year-old heterosexual, recent divorcee, and mother of 2, she emotionally spoke of the disappointment of a disintegrated 34-year marriage. But she also spoke of hope and renewal and hand-holding.
Romantic love feels wonderful. It's looking at someone and just having that great feeling that you just can't wait to touch them, you can't wait to kiss them, you can't wait to hug them. It's having someone that when you're having a really tough day, you get home and you can hug that person and everything feels better. Everything feels like it's okay in the world again.
So I see this is making you emotional.
Yes, because of being recently divorced.
Okay.
After 34 years, mm-hmm. and having that type of a relationship in the beginning of the marriage, and then it deteriorating over years and years, and knowing what could have been, what once was, and then realizing how it ended, and it's just sad.
So,
it's very sad for me.
So if that had been able to be sustained, that compassionate kindness...
You have to understand that nobody's perfect, and to be able to grow with each other is huge. If we had been able to continue to have that type of a relationship, I'd still be married to him. But it's just sometimes there's too much past and too much that's happened that is not able to be let go or able to be understood, that you can't move forward. And it's just it's heartbreaking, especially when you still have feelings for that person and they just you just can't move forward because the relationship doesn't get any better. It's very difficult. But love is a wonderful thing, and I hope to find it again. But yeah, just to be able to find someone that I can hold their hand and just enjoy just being with, just touching, just that feeling of just can't wait to be with them. You can't wait to make everything feel better.
Jean is an 89-year young heterosexual widow, currently single, but dating. His answers were poignant, yet still practical in the male vein. But he also spoke of hand-holding and how consideration becomes the passion of old age.
So I think it's an individual thing, depending upon the situation the person's in. If they're still married with a long-standing wife or husband, I think they have a lot different attitude than someone who's a widow or a widower who's without a mate of any kind. To evaluate and to appraise and to think about love and affection at my age, it isn't something that we think of very seriously. I think most of us who are alone think about our past experiences through life when maybe we enjoyed some of the love and affection that is so enjoyable. But as you get older, your attitudes change about it, and it's because love and affection is not a wild and physical thing anymore. It's holding a hand, or it's walking down the street with your mate or friend, or just riding around looking at the environment. It's just sharing time together can be very rewarding, but it may be very rewarding and may feel fine and be good to the people involved, but it's not the description or definition of the expression that younger people would evaluate or consider.
So it changes. Yeah. It loses its passion, sort of.
Yeah.
Element.
I think that's what it is. Although I think passion comes in different ways. I think passion becomes appreciation and loyalty and cooperation in a lot of things. Enjoying someone being there when you're ill, or just to hold your hand, or bring you a glass of water. That can be a very, very rewarding experience. Whereas that would be just an average experience, at a different time in your life. I think companionship makes up for a lot of lack of passion with older people.
So, what is love? According to the scientists, there's no difference between male and female and homosexual and heterosexual brain activity patterns when in love. And love is literally a drug. Our brains become flooded with chemicals: oxytocin, dopamine, adrenaline, epinephrine, and norepinephrine. We feel better about ourselves and even think more creatively when in love. Those in strong relationships experience overall better quality of life and even live longer. We experience and interpret our relationships based on our attachment styles developed in childhood. For example, secure, anxious, ambivalent, or avoidant attachment styles, all in the pursuit of intimacy. We require intimacy because it is evolutionarily adaptive. Since Homo sapiens became nomadic hunters and foragers, natural selection rewarded those that bonded to protect their young. And interestingly, those societies were the very first nuclear families. Romantic love thrives in the nuclear household culture, whereas societies that support extended families put far less emphasis on romantic pairings and focus on pragmatic, companionate matches. And social conditions that foster gender equality also engenders romantic love. When women are valued, love flourishes. So as the great Tina Turner once asked, what's love got to do with it? Well, everything.
Thanks for listening to Rhonda on Spaz on Health. Tune into greeninkradio.com to rock your best life.